They were the heroes from the future, teenagers protecting the universe from those that would sow the seeds of chaos. Each had unique powers and abilities, and though they often had their differences, they came together to save the day as the Legion of Superheroes. Now, you can be a part of their adventures and learn the history of the future in the Legion Clubhouse.
Hello, everyone. It's me, Steven Schleicher. You've probably been wondering, where has the Legion Clubhouse gone? Why have they not held any regular meetings? Isn't this a violation of the code set up by the Legion membership? And I say, maybe. But do rules really matter these days? Here's the deal. We've had so many little things pop up here and there that have canceled or moved our Legion Clubhouse recordings, and we apologize for that. But, you know, life is life. And we still have plenty of Legion Clubhouse to go on. So no, we haven't pod faded, but we were supposed to have a Legion Clubhouse last week. And we recorded that episode last week until it came time to edit the episode, and I realized the audio was garbage. And not just because Matthew was on the show. Let me tell you, It's because the audio was truly garbage. So we are going to re-record this episode. I should also point out that we're trying to get a new laptop so garbage episodes don't happen again. You can provide some support for that if you like over at patreon.com/majorspoilers. We're very close to being able to replace this computer that delivers garbage. And no, again, I'm not talking about Matthew. He's not a computer. Stop saying that. He's a real, living, breathing person. Last I checked. So, this week on the show, Starfinger is back.
Starfinger.
I think since we've already had this discussion before, Matthew, we should probably just talk about both of these issues together. Legion of Superheroes number 40 and number 41. It's a Starfinger tale that is, my God, a carryover from the last time we saw Starfinger, somewhere in the 20s, I want to say.
Starfinger last appeared in Legion number 29.
That's a long time ago.
Asterisk. Starfinger last appeared in continuity in Legion 29. Actually, Starfinger did appear in the previous episode in Legion number 39 in Colossal Boy's backup story, where we find that mysterious guy who escaped from Takran Galtos under Jim's watch. That guy, it turns out, is or was Starfinger. Now, if you didn't know that, I don't want you to feel bad because it's not really spelled out in these issues. And I actually kind of found out a very bizarre around-the-bout way when I started looking up Starfinger. And I'm like, why are they listing Starfinger as appearing in the issue with Colossal Boy's flashback? And I had to go into a look at, and Levitz confirmed, yes, that kid who escaped when Colossal Boy had just gotten his powers, that was Starfinger.
Oh, you mean that guy flying up the Jeffries tube and everything? That he had to reach up and grab and all that stuff. That was Starfinger? That dweeb that was escaping?
That point where we literally said, hey, what happened to that guy? We never saw his name. We never heard anything about him. It just, that plot point just sort of dropped. That was Starfinger.
I think I like the issue even less. I think I like that in retrospect. I think I like that issue even a lot less. If that is the case. So this redheaded guy running around in his green suit. Should have known. Green means bad. Redheads mean bad.
Green and purple means evil in comics.
Yeah. I mean, why Jimmy Olsen hasn't turned evil, I will have no idea why he's never turned evil. But
it's cape proximity. If you're close to a cape, long
you're going to get exposed to some kind of radiation.
Okay, so look at it this way. If we put 1,000 chimpanzees in a room...
they've already proven that they will not be able to generate Shakespeare.
No, but they will keep typing over and over, Jimmy gets superpowers. And if you're in Volume 3 of the Legion, they will show you issue 29 again issue 44.
I'm now liking that issue a lot less. Anyway, let us jump into this issue, and we open with Dream Girl and Starboy What's going on with these two? I mean, they were living together for all intents and purposes. They were common law marriage. I'm sure even in the 30th century, common law marriage is very easily understood. They've cohabitated for, 30 years now, the 1950s to the 1980s. So what's going on? First of all, it's Dream Girl, so there's that. But is Starboy just like weird? He's like, "Oh, Starboy, Shug, you can come back and be with me, Shug." And he's like, "No, I must return to my planet now." And then she's like, "No, what's his face came back?" And he's like, "Yes, but what's his face left again, so I'm off." And then he turns to an 80-year-old man within 3 panels.
That is a neat, stupid, bad effect. But it's not intentional where he turns. I'm almost certain it's just a printing problem with the 80s flexographic printing.
Well, what I think it is they're showing him. So if you look at the page that in question, on page 18 of issue 40, he's walking away and he's in the light. But as he approaches closer to the camera, he's supposed to be out of the spotlight. So I think that is their way. Because if you notice, like all of the highlights on his suit that are supposed to be coming from light and not the stars on his suit. Wait, do you think that Starboy has like a sequin suit? Do you think his suit is nothing but sequins?
I don't know, honestly.
Is he a big fan of the ABBA?
I've always thought of it as kind of like Rorschach's mask, because if you watch it, that starfield is constantly moving and changing.
Just like it would be if he had sequins all over his suit. Every time he would move, a different thing would sparkle.
Okay, you're right. It's probably an ABBA. Yeah, he got a Zentai suit.
I'm sure. So anyway, he's walking out of the light, and if you notice the highlights, they turn gray. So I'm sure that is their way of saying, "Oh no, he's walking into the shadows." But if your brown hair walks into the shadows, it doesn't turn gray; it turns darker brown.
I don't know, man. Our brown hair has gotten grayer.
No, but this is not over the course of 3 panels. Sorry.
Well, 3 decades, but yeah. So Starboy, when he left the Legion, went home to his home planet Xanthu and agreed to be the official planetary champion, which is a thing that we've never heard of from Xanthu, although Shadowlass has that problem with her home planet of Talok 8.
Yeah, and we saw Matter Eater Lad also had that same problem when they're like, "You must come and lead us." And he's like, "But I'm no leader." And they're like, "We know, but come lead us anyway. We've got sandwiches."
Yeah, well, and he was technically drafted into the Senate, which I think tells you all you really need to know about Bismol. Nobody wants to run for Senate, and so they just drag you in and you have to come in. Yeah, I feel like if people were eating like solid steel, you would not want to be in a room with 100 Bismolians because you feel like, the burps alone could be fatal.
Could be.
But, yeah. So, Dream Girl, Starboy are on the outs. It feels like we never saw an overt breakup. We never saw we're not together anymore.
She just starts flirting around with, every other guy. And he's watching it, and he's like, today I'm sure there's a whole group of people that would have a perfect name for Starboy, but I'm not going to use it because we have no idea if Starboy drinks soy milk or not.
And, Starboy does have an unexpected sense of responsibility here because we've never really seen him have a huge, tie to Xanthu before. If you go back to his origin in 306, I want to say he was born on Earth, or at least in the Terran system.
Oh, so he's not even qualified to go and protect that planet. Everyone knows that if you're going to be a protector of a planet, you have to be born on that planet.
I don't know.
It probably explains the polymer shield around Earth. None of the heroes are actually born on Earth, so they have to seal it up in a poly bag. Maybe someday it'll be worth a lot more, and you can put your kids through college.
Charles Foster Tane was born on Earth in Metropolis.
And he's not even a superhero of Earth anymore. He doesn't protect Earth anymore. He's in the Substitute Legion.
He literally teaches the next generation. He's like the head of the Legion Academy. You yourself have complained about the Legion Academy, which, now that you mention it, gave us Laurel Gand, who shows up in this issue to be mean to Dream Girl.
Well, no, she's not being mean to Dream Girl, right? So Sunboy is the one that comes out and he's like, blah, 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 which Sunboy's a jerk, but he's hanging out with Laurel Kent now. And she's not wearing the same costume that she did in the previous issue, which is weird. But
Took as a tribute to the recently dead Superboy when she wore that suit for a minute, but
a done in one?
I mean, it's the Legion. I mean, if we honestly tried and figure out their clothing, their sartorial choices, honestly, we'd be even more confused than we are.
Yeah. So anyway, Sunboy comes out and he's hanging out with Laurel Kent, and Sunboy says something rude, and then for no reason, Dream Girl is just like, "What are you doing, robbing the incubator?" And I gotta have that brings up a good question. Is like, what's the age difference between these two? I mean, we know that the Legion members are in their hundreds by now, thanks to the aging serum that the United Planets provides everybody. But
I'm sorry,
even if she's 18, who cares?
So it just based on the context clues. If we look at those founding Legionnaires, the adventure comics, the earliest group, Joe and Tinya are kind of boring couple. And if you look at, your Imra and your Garth, they've gone off, had children, they've gotten married. I figure all those guys, your Dirks and your bouncing boys and your Brainiacs and your Element lads, they're supposed to be around 27, 28. And I've always kind of read Laurel as being like 20, 21, because we remember.
Yeah, but that's still only 7 years.
Right. And Dream Girl's just being mean.
Yeah.
But Superboy had a crush on Laurel, and it seemed appropriate. And Superboy was canonically 16 at the time. So if we figure that even Laurel is 18, 19, 20, and says she looks younger than she is, which, stick a pin in that, by the way. She's older than she looks.
Yeah, that's the other thing that's really weird about her, too. So, I don't know. The whole comment is just, it's really weird and out of place. And I know it's Paul Levitz writing it, and not, I forgot the woman who was writing it, who was making the characters Mindy. Making the characters very, very catty. I could understand it if she's attached to this project, but she's not. So this seems just totally weird.
It is interesting, though, and this sequence, you could read it a couple of different ways. And I've been thinking about it as we talked today, that it didn't come up the first time. She gets her old friend, one of her oldest friends, takes a shot at her. And she responds by attacking his girlfriend, which is either an indication that Dream Girl is comfortable with Sunboy to the point where she's going to hurt his girlfriend to try and hurt him. Or, more importantly, as you have pointed out, Dream Girl is weirdly not entirely nice to other women. And I wonder if she's just more comfortable being mean to another woman and hoping that it splashes back on Sunboy, because we've seen her.
I mean, it seems like
female Legionnaires before.
Yeah, but it seems like maybe this is more of a 70s, 80s thing. So I wonder if Dream Girl's attitude change is also a reflection of the soap operas that were popular during the daytime. And so you have the Platinum Blonde, who is more aggressive towards women and more demure to the men. Or also if this is the soap operas of the evenings, your Dallases, your Dynasties, those kinds of things. Yeah,
she's playing your Alexis Carrington.
Yeah.
And I definitely see that. I think that you are right. There's definitely some 80s misogyny coming out.
Oh, no, definitely.
Through Dream Girl, which, happens more often than you'd expect.
And probably more often than it should, but whatever.
Yeah.
There's also, the main plot. I mean, I know we're going off onto this whole Sunboy Dream Girl, Starboy Dream Girl relationship and Sunboy's comments and everything. But really, the whole point of this is a Starfinger thing. And the first thing that we are introduced to is Polar Boy's Planet of Hell, but not the hell that you and I know of. The other hell. Boise. Oh.
It froze over. Here's the thing about Thar. We've always known that Thar, it has two R's, so you have to say it like that, was considered unsettable because it was so hot.
Yeah.
Which is why everybody from Thar developed the ability to emit cold. Now, Polar Boy is a very, very powerful cold emitter. In the strictest sense, you don't generate cold, you absorb heat. So, I mean, from a scientific standpoint, Polar Boy is one of the strongest heat absorbers / cold makers on planet Thar. And we've seen that, even in the early days of the Legion, he was much more powerful than he was controlled, which is why they rejected him. But we see his home planet, and it's kind of, it frightens me. Because Mon-El is just like, let me use my heat vision. And
so let's go back to this magical science that you're talking about, because there is a science police, Matthew, the key word here, science police.
Right.
And something has erupted thanks to the cavity creeps. Well, the cavity creeps, really. But something has erupted. And so Mon-El and the robots are trying to repair. But Mon-El is like, let me just superheat this metal, and we can just bend it all back a lot faster. And the science policeman is like, he's making it hotter? I don't understand this. This does not compute. And it's just so out of... I would think that science police would have to be some of the smartest people to qualify. First of all, there's not very many of them. So it's not like, hey, Tommy, I understand that you don't understand what you want to do with your life and you seem like you have no direction. Have you thought about joining the science police? No, this seems like one of those things that it's like, hey, Jimmy, we know that you are one of the smartest people around and you seem to be a good guy and not evil. How about you join the science police? Because they could use somebody who's really brilliant like you to help make sure that the United Planets are safe. But it seems like Timmy got the job here on Thar.
I think of it, so science police, I think if you're looking at it as this is a man who is both a scientist and a policeman, but maybe it's more of like a model actress sort of situation or a singer, songwriter, esthetician. You're not really good at either. And maybe this guy's better at policing than he is at sciencing.
He's not very good at policing either because he allowed these things to happen under his watch.
Oh, do you try and tell Mon-El he's not going to melt something with his vision?
Way to go, Timmy. You have done the science police justice. And then back on Earth, a spaceship crashes and these crazy aliens come out and there's a big fight with the lead singer of Journey and Hulk Hogan before he really found his true calling.
It is interesting to see Hulk Hogan working for Starfinger. That'd be disappointing if it weren't for,
reality.
Hulk Hogan's last 20 years or so. Are you sure that's Steve Perry and not Geddy Lee from Rush? Because
it could be both.
It could be both. He is very chunky. Everybody in this issue is pretty chunky, though.
Yeah, and you blame that on Greg LaRocque or Dan Jurgens?
I blame it on Mike DeCarlo because if you remember LaRocque, you and I talked about this the previous time. LaRocque does very thick figures. LaRocque was the guy who drew most of that run of Flash that we love, including the return of Barry Allen that turned out to not be the return of Barry Allen. DeCarlo, and don't get me wrong, I think that DeCarlo is a wonderful man. He did some really good work. His stuff on Wrath of the Spectre is wonderful. But he's inking with a very heavy line here to the point where I have to look and see, the last page is clearly Jurgens, but it's Jurgens with a really thick DeCarlo line. And I feel like some of the chunkiness that you get from LaRocque gets even chunkier and crazier. And, if you look on page 2 or 3, Timberwolf's ears are just enormous. He looks like he's wearing glue-on Vulcan fake ears on page 3. And I honestly feel it's one of those things where DeCarlo came in, inked it pretty heavy,
Yeah, that's weird, man. No idea. Anyway, the problem on Hell. Oh, one of the things I wanted to talk about Thar that I did find interesting was that one of the ways that they keep cool underground was with these big misting sprays that they have located everywhere. And I was like, when did the common misting spray, because they sell these things at Ace Hardware now. You can go buy a misting fan at Ace Hardware. Well, not now because it's fall and winter, But during the hotter months of the year, you can go and buy misting fans, and they're pretty easy to come across for most people. I remember back in the 96 Olympics that it was kind of a big deal that all throughout Atlanta, they had positioned these misting fans in high traffic areas to keep people cool. And I was like, this is a pretty cool invention. But the evaporating spray, the misting fan, really didn't come into mainstream service until 1993, and I believe that was with the NFL. But the patent dates back all the way to 1979. And so when I saw this, I was like, oh my gosh, is this the first appearance of a misting fan? And this is what people went forward and created these things? No, more than likely there was probably talk about this, or this was demonstrated at a World's Fair or some other place. And somebody saw it and was like, oh, this is pretty cool. We should think about this. And then they, like I said, it wasn't until another decade almost, not little less than a decade, before we see them being used in the NFL and then in the Summer Olympics. So I found that very interesting.
It's kind of neat. The cucumbers at my local Dillon's get that.
That's a different kind of misting spray. That's just a moisturizing spray, not a cooling spray. Yeah. Keeps it wet. Makes it look like that fruit is fresh throughout.
Right. Even though it's Kansas and it's been in a truck for a month.
No, not necessarily. They grow cucumbers in Kansas. Something
else that's wonderful about issue 40, and I want to point this out because I caught it in this second read through. Page 25, Wildfire's like, haha, I'm going to attack this powerful space station owned by Starfinger. Yeah. He's like, oh man, some sort of trap. And then he just explodes. Like for literally no reason on page 26, Wildfire's like, oh man, I'm going to come over and just bursts. And I
thought it was him trying to get out of, I guess I'm on 22. I thought that was him getting out of the, no, he just goes in to blow up the space station, right?
He's like, yeah, it's some sort of trap. And then we see, okay, just let me. And then all of a sudden in that third panel, Sunboy flies up and Wildfire's in the background just blowing up. As Stephen King would have it, he squat like an old pumpkin.
I don't know if he's blowing up or if that's just to show his immense powers of trying to absorb so much of the station, but it's weird. Anyway, I think what we learn in this first part of this story is that Orange Man is bad. Also, Orange Man is not very smart because Orange Man is screaming at his minions to do stuff. And he's like, we're going to do this from my secret hidden base and the Legion will never be able to find me. And then literally the Legion track him down and find him within an instant.
Yeah, this Starfinger storyline is ill-served by the fact that Starfinger once again throws a huge Kylo Ren tantrum when things don't go his way. He's like, but he's like Cobra Commander.
To an extent, yeah. I mean, he really comes off that way because Cobra Commander is, at least whenever I watched G.I. Joe, I always saw Cobra Commander as kind of laughable. Yeah, he's kind of a joke, an ineffective leader. So I guess Orange Man here is also somewhat ineffective in his job as leader. And so I'm not really sure what the whole point of. So I know we're amping up characters and those kinds of things, but Starfinger is not one of these characters that really seems to pose a threat. Sure, he tries to be like, yeah, sure would be bad if something happened to your casino on Mars, or it sure would be bad if you don't give me 10% of your Thar mining's operations. He's just like a low-level thug and not really an effective villain. I mean, I'm sure people look at him and go, Orange Man bad, he must be stopped. But he's just a laughable joke. And I mean, they devote a lot of time right now to him, and there are much better villains that the Legion of Superheroes have taken on besides Starfinger.
It does feel like an attempt. And remember, this is a new Starfinger because the original Starfinger was, I don't want to say a lamer, but
this guy's even more lame.
This guy at least has his whole intergalactic protection racket, It's not necessarily a good thing, but it is something different for the Legion. We look, who are the best overall Legion villains? The five neat guys, Dwayne The Rock Johnson and the Emerald Empress, and Valley Girl and those.
Yeah.
And then you got
Mordru.
your Mordru
Yeah.
and your Time Trapper.
Yeah.
You get a lot of these guys who are just one man against a legion. This is one man with an immense criminal apparatus.
Yes. And he's super ineffective. He still bankrupts his own space station because he's unable to hide it effectively.
He's not the brightest bulb at the bottom of the barrel. I will grant you that. But the thing about Starfinger that I have always believed about this is Starfinger 3, by the way. Starfinger 3 is this. He was created for a cool visual. The end.
Well, also probably created as cool visuals are Starfinger's sidekicks, ? Starbright and Starlight.
Yeah, they're just.
Do you remember Superman the animated series? Lex Luthor's protector / driver, Mercy. I think was her name, right? Mercy.
Yep, Mercy Graves.
It always came across to me, even in that cartoon show, that they were just a little bit more than a business relationship, like they were doing something on the side, right?
Right.
And that's kind of the way this comes off when we're introduced to Starlight and Starbright. They're like, "Ooh, is there anything we can do for you, sir?" And it's very, very weird in how they are speaking to their boss in almost a sexualized way. I don't know if that was the intent. So I forget which one. It's either Starlight or Starbright says, "Please no, master, let Starbright and I attend to your wishes instead." And it's like, and they're dressed in like stocking costumes.
They are dressed in little stockings. I feel like this may be another, a cultural shift, because I think the intention here is genies, a pair of genies who live in your ring and pop out at your command. And they're like, "Oh, master, boing, da, 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 da." And then Major Healy comes over and you have to keep.
So are they real or are they constructs? Is this like a Green Lantern ring? Is this like a Gold Lantern ring?
I feel like they are beings of some sort that live in the ring
with Starfinger and everybody else.
With, itty bitty living space. But I also feel like it is interesting in 2024 to see how "Let Me Serve You, Master" has become something different. And I don't know if that's maybe more of a sexualization of media or more of an acceptance.
All right, let's go back and look at "I Dream of Jeannie." And you tell me that is not a sexualization of a man-woman relationship in the 1960s, in the 1970s, and tell me that that's not the same message as it was intended, but couched a different way back then than it is today.
It's more chaste than I think either of us remember, but you're not wrong. And I feel like the loaded language there, the "yes, master, let us serve you" thing does come through creepy. But more importantly, it is the only interesting thing about Starlight and Starbright. They have boring costumes. They have boring names. They are literally an identical woman painted different colors. One's green, dark hair, and one is pink with blonde hair. And
so you're saying the bad orange man has a type.
You know what? Here's the thing. If they were like, and I'm going to say this, and I know I'm going to regret it. If they were like super creepy, hyper sexualized, 2020 anime waifus, and they were like jiggling around and gainaxing, they might be more interesting. I don't think I'd like them. That would still be embarrassing. But these girls don't really succeed either as powerful genies or as, something weird and perverse. Yeah. It's just like,
Well, this isn't the only example of like weirdness that goes on in this issue, because at one point, Wildfire confronts Dawnstar and he's like, "Listen, you didn't like me when I didn't have a body, and now that I have a body, you don't like me." And she's like, "Get away from me." And he has a freak out. And I don't know, this is somewhat stalkery behavior. I mean, it's starting to lean into that, right? Like she said no. And then he keeps coming and saying, "We belong together." And she keeps saying no. And he gets angry at her for rejecting him. And it's just like, this is probably not the best behavior to be showing let's face it, young men who are reading comic books at this time, that if she says no, don't take no, as the final say, keep pressuring, and eventually she'll come around to you. That, or you're going to have to do something else to her. And it doesn't happen here, but it feels like that's the trajectory that Wildfire is going down.
I hope not. In fact, I know not because I've read the issues, but
yeah,
I definitely see it. I can tell you that for me, it feels like a college relationship. It feels like she's not sure of her boundaries. She's not sure of her comfort level. They've had this long, deep, sitting up till, the middle of the night talking, where she's like, gosh, I wish I had a boyfriend like you, but not you.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, well, now I can be your boyfriend. And she's like, well, now you're just like a flaming dude guy. And I'm not sure how I feel about that either. So on the one hand, I feel like Dawn Starr is part of the issue because she's like, you don't have a body. I don't like you. And now she's like, you have a body. I don't like you. But I do agree with you that he kind of he's always taken it badly. You may recall when she was like, hey, I don't think we can be together because you're an immaterial phantom in a gas bag. He yelled so loud he exploded.
Right. That also, wasn't he, who was his previous, was there another girl that he was after before Dawn Starr?
Not exactly. He had kind of, at one point he had a little thing with two of the kids from the Legion Academy when they came.
So he was stealing from the embryo maker or whatever that they call it, the incubator.
You remember when Lamprey and Nightwind were all flirty with him?
Oh, yeah.
And then, not long after, he ended up with his long and involved Dawn Starr thing.
Yeah, I don't know. It just reads really, really weird, especially at a time where, and again, the 80s, maybe not so different from today, but where misogyny and is just like a common thing. And I don't know. It just kind of, I read that and I was like, I understand his sentiment. I understand his frustration, but she's also said no in the nicest way she can. And you kind of forced yourself on her, not in a rapey kind of way, but he's kind of forced herself in this situation. And so she reacts the way that I think she should. And now he's upset by basically saying, oh, I am the one that should be offended. I am the one that should be hurt, not the other way around, kind of thing.
Yeah. Well, if you look, he has a star on his chest. She has a star on her head. They're clearly star-crossed lovers.
Yeah. And of course, then it all ends with Starfinger's powerful secret space station being blown up to smithereens. And this is the last that we have seen of John Starfinger.
Oh, yeah. He's totally dead. There's no possible way that long pan into his ring.
Yeah, the 9-panel page of just the ring floating in space has anything to do.
Soon they will live again
with the return of John Starfinger.
Yeah, there is in 41 one big plot moment for the Legion going forward that does happen.
Okay.
In Colossal Boy. Who has been active with the Legion since the action days.
Oh, yeah. He gets shot in the butt.
He gets shot in the thigh. It's not a shot in the butt.
My butt. He says that. He goes, aye, my butt.
He does not. Shut up. Okay. So Colossal Boy, anyway, gets wounded.
Yeah, he gets wounded.
And think about this. The cube square law says that wound is a cube of a square. So it's like when he's small, it hurts. But when he's big, it's like a cube. I don't know how the square cube law works, but
I think they say it's a cube, not a cube.
The more, it hurts.
Yeah. And
it's a hamstring injury. I don't know if you know that.
My butt. And he's Colossal Boy, so it would have to be his gluteus maximus. Anyway,
Gluteus Maximus,
Yara.
I'm pretty sure.
Yara is pretty upset that her man is out because she relies on him for all the money. And she's not too happy that he's on the injured reserve list.
She loves him greatly.
I didn't say she didn't. I just said she's upset because she doesn't work, and now he's on the injured reserve list.
She's an actress. She works as an actress. She acts.
Model actress?
Probably. And his best friend, Chameleon/Boy, comes to visit, and she's like, "Get out, get out, get out, yeah, orange pointy wing."
Do these two have, are they okay with one another, or do they have a tenuous relationship? Is this one of those things where you've betrayed my people kind of thing?
I don't think we've ever seen any real interactions between Reap and Yera.
Yeah.
I know that, Colossal Boy and Chameleon Boy joined the Legion together.
Right.
And as we saw last issue, Colossal Boy is the reason he calls himself Chameleon Boy, because why would an alien from another planet call himself a chameleon? But I don't think we have yet to really see, and I can't remember any even later, real moments where Yera and Reap interact very much.
Yeah, I was just curious because of the fact that she was, infiltrating a spy network, all that stuff. And
he was part of the espionage squad when they busted her.
Yeah.
And he did not seem particularly happy to find out that she had, replaced Violet. But none of the Legionnaires did, except for Colossal Boy, who was, in love with her. So
yeah, already married her by that time. So
I always feel like if you had anybody in the Legion who was the traditional cop, like maybe a Columbo style cop, it would be Chameleon Boy. So I don't know if it's she doesn't like him because he doesn't trust her thing, but I always read it as she did something really, really terrible, and he's the straight-laced guy who won't let her forget it.
Yeah, but again, we never see that, right? So that's why I was curious what the relationship between these two is.
Everything's set. I think Dr. Jimmel grew another arm, too.
I know, right? He's got 4 arms and 4 extra horns, and he doesn't look as crabby as he is. He's actually, like you said, with much of the art in these issues, kind of more bulky than what we've seen before.
Yep, it's a very, very chunky Dr. Jimmel. He put on some weight.
Number one, this story seems out of place. This feels like it should have been way back with issue 29. Like this should have been issues 30 and 31, not a whole year between this Return of Starfinger moment, because they dealt with him and his ways. Yes, we saw the Colossal Boy flashback. Maybe that should have been the precursor to issue 29. Mm-hmm. But this story just feels out of place, especially with everything that has gone on before. Maybe this is one of those things where, hey, this was a back of the stove pot boiler, and it's finally reaching its needed conclusion as we give the audience a break or a breather between the next big adventure that is coming up. But yeah, it feels out of place, and it wasn't that interesting.
I feel like the break, you're right, was too long with the Universo project and the Superboy thing and a couple of not fill-ins, but a couple of, unrelated flashback issues and things in there. It was too long between appearances of Starfinger, and Starfinger isn't all that interesting anyway.
At least this incarnation is not that interesting.
I don't feel like the original was either. Do you remember that guy? He looked like he had eyes for eyes. Okay, so imagine the Michelin Man wearing Black Mantis helmet.
I remember
with papayas glued to the front.
Yeah.
But it's not really actually the villain. It's actually Lightning Lad in disguise. See?
Yeah.
Because
I don't know. I'm just not I don't know. This was not a story that grabbed me. I'm sure that so one of our listeners out there, this is their favorite story. And if it is, please reach out to us. You can send us an email, podcast@majorspoilers.com, and just let us know what made this a great story arc for you. Was it because it was this slow boiler where it started all the way back in 29, and then we got a little bit of stuff in the flashback Colossal Boy issue, and then it all came to a head here? Is that what makes it exciting for you? Is it the relationship reveals that make it exciting? Is it, Wildfire just, going all Kirby dots and exploding? Let us know. Let us know what really makes this issue work for you. Or maybe you're somebody that agrees with us and you're like, yeah, this issue's not that great, but here's why it's important. Just send us an email, podcast@majorspoilers.com. We would love to hear from you and read some of your comments on an upcoming show. And I think that's where we're going to wrap it up this week, Matthew. Thank you, everybody, for checking us out. I promise that we will not be, 3 months later before the next episode. We'll be back in a couple of weeks. Next time on the Legion of Superheroes. Oh, somebody's a spy. Who's going to be the spy? What about the Manhunters? The Manhunters are still around 1,000 years later. Oh, it's going to be really incredible. That's next time on the Legion Clubhouse.
The Legion Clubhouse is a production of Major Spoilers Entertainment, LLC, and is produced by Steven Schleicher. Your hosts were Matthew Peterson and Steven Schleicher. You can follow Matthew at Mighty King Cobra and Steven at Major Spoilers. You can follow this podcast on Twitter at Legion Clubhouse. If you have questions or comments, send them to podcast@majorspoilers.com. I'm Jason Inman. Until next time, eat it, Grandpa.
This podcast is copyright 2024 by Major Spoilers Entertainment, LLC.